Hi guys, welcome to another bowling analysis video. So today we'll be looking at the 2022 Singapore National Youth Championships, bowling National Youth Championships obviously. Yeah. And we're looking at under 16 squad M qualifying. So under 16 has always been one of the most interesting categories for me to look at. To me, like the two most so-called competitive and where the not say competitive, I guess the open category will be technically more competitive, but the two categories or two age groups where I see the most upcoming and developing talent will be under 16 as well as the under 18. Under 18 will be more national team members, more current national team members, where under 16 will be where you're looking for like the next batch of national talent, right? The up and comers will be coming from the under 16 division. The reason being is that at the under 16 category, which is the secondary school category, most of the boys as well as the girls would have in the midst of puberty, or for the girls they've already like reached the peak of puberty. For the boys, they are in the midst of puberty, so their bodies are getting well developed. They get a lot taller, their limbs are longer as well, and they get a lot stronger. Then that is where they are able to handle like the full, their body can perform to their best almost to their best potential. I would say where their body performs their best potential for the teens are when they reach 17 to 18. So the under 18 category are where their bodies reach peak performance level. But under 16 is really close to that, where they develop their skills and they get pretty close to the peak performance level at the under 16 category. So just happened to look at this qualifying squad, and this squad has actually quite a lot of two-handers because a lot of the Bowling is Science Academy members are actually playing in this squad. I think they like to group their players in a single squad so that is easier on the logistics end as well. Like for the coaches, they just, if all their bowlers are like, let's say, playing in squad M, right, in this particular time frame, then the coaches will just have to come in this particular time frame. Then it's easier for the coaches as well as for the for the coaches, mainly for the coaches, because the coaches can spread through the whole squad and they can oversee all their students in that particular squad. So easier logistics. Okay, so we can see that in this squad for I'm gonna look at quite a lot of the two-handers here. Obviously there are some which are like beginning in the game, like we can see here. Jonathan is obviously more beginner bowler, most like starting out in his career in two-handed bowling, as compared to some of the more advanced ones. Like we can see, I can't see his name. Is it Darwin or Garen? Like that. This guy here is honestly is obviously more advanced. So I'm gonna bring out a pen. Wait, yeah, correct. So I'm gonna bring out a pen here, and we can see that our bowler here. I can't see his name here as well. From BIS, from Bowling is Science, also obviously a more advanced bowler, right? So this bowler here, overseen by Coach Shireen. So some general things to note that I noticed that I want to highlight to the audience member, especially for a two-hander, right? If you are developing two-hander, you're learning the two-handed game, is that you have to notice that how these kids, right, usually they extend their elbows upon release. So let's see if I can see it here. Okay, so this is not ideal, but we can still highlight this. Okay, you can see that for most of these kids, right, from the Bowling and Science Academy, they are taught, and I would actually agree with this as well, because Bowling and Science is where I learn like almost all my bowling skills, especially my bowling coaching skills. So you can see that almost all of them, keeps their elbow extended on the downswing. So this actually is really good for multiple reasons. So first and foremost is that as you extend your elbow, you have a longer swing. So if a longer swing means you have a, how should I say, a far higher ball speed, right? Because you actually have this will tie in with physics. If you look at the formula for like what we call angular velocity, which is like how to convert rotational velocity into like horizontal velocity. So if you look at the formula for angular velocity, is that the higher your radius, right, the longer your arm swing, which is the radius of the rotation, the higher the radius of the rotation, and in our case of the human body would be human physiology for bowling would be that the higher the longer your arm swing, the more horizontal velocity you can generate. So this is in direct correlation to like physics formula, right? So there's no arguing that, right? The only way to argue that is that you can say that if you do higher like rotational velocity, obviously, like if you rotate your arms faster, obviously it will also give you higher horizontal velocity. That is obviously true as well, but definitely the longer your radius of your arm swing, the more you extend your arm, the higher you can get on your ball speed. And also it helps to have a smoother release as well. Because when you extend your arm swing here, you release your ball at the bottom here, right? At the bottom of the arm swing. So in this case, for our BIS student here, I can't see his name. I think it's Ethan or something. Like the resolution of this is not clear enough for me to make out his name on the screen. Is that he releases a bit late. But even if we don't consider his late release, right? Ideally, you should be releasing a ball right beneath your elbow here. Beneath your elbow, right underneath your chin, that will be the optimal point of release. So this would have you have less issues with your release point with a straight arm swing as compared to if they keep their arm swings bent. So let's see a lot of like new bowlers as well as young bowlers, they actually keep their arm swing bent on the downswing, or their elbow bent on the downswing. So the problem with having an elbow bent is that you actually will have issues with releasing your ball on time, and then they will delay their release. So the ball will release after the chin. So they have a late release, and it actually slows down their ball speed as well because they are shortening the length of their arm swing. So not only will they have a slower ball speed, they also delay their release, which makes their so-called the rotation of the release and so on is a bit weird. So you don't get the proper shape if your ball travels down the lane. So let's just play this. We can see that our bowler here actually releases late. So we can maybe just capture the point where he releases. Yeah, he releases late, right? So this is the point that he released. And then you can see that he releases the ball here. And this is his chin level is here, right? So he releases it way too late. That means after his arm swing has passed his chin. So ideally, he should release the ball a lot earlier, like before the ball, like when it's underneath his chin, right? So that's why he releases it late. And because of that, he actually kills the ball speed. So the ball speed is slower. He lost the ball. I mean, his ball speed is still pretty fast for having a late release. Actually, still not bad. And then let's look at other two-handed bowlers we can see and compare here. A lot of them have finished bowling. Okay, we have, I think this is two-handed bowler, Jasper, right? On the extreme left-hand side here. Yep. So let's just freeze frame on the part of his downswing. So Coach Sandra actually blocks it. And you can see here, yeah, right. So this is very obvious here. So on his backswing, he's able to keep his elbow straight. And as we play a little bit more, play a little bit more. So I'm gonna reverse just a bit, as you can see, whether we progress into the downswing. Yeah, here. So he's going into the downswing here. Jasper keeps his elbow straight as well. So that means he's lengthening his arm swing, and it will help him to have a earlier release point for the ball, as well as generate higher ball speed during his downswing for his two-handed release. Then no issues with ball speed here. Yep, pretty smooth, very smooth release as well. You don't see the ball lofting or bobbing on the lanes. So we will get another shot of Jasper. Is it Javier? I think it's Javier. So this is another two-handed bowler. Can't really see it. Slower ball speed by Javier here. I can't see his arm swing blocked by Coach Chandra there. So Coach Chandra is the head coach for Bowling Science. So obviously Bowling Science has quite a bit of development and research in the two-handed game. And that is why I approached when I wanted to learn coaching, right? I approached them straight away because I'm a two-handed bowler myself and I wanted to learn more about the two-handed game and coaching two-handers as well. So immediately I approached them because I recognized that even from many years ago, when I was looking at their academy bowlers way years ago, they were like way ahead of the game, right? Their development of the physical game of the two-handed physical game was way more advanced than what I knew at that point of time, and way more advanced than any other academy that I've seen. So they have put quite a bit of effort into it. So because their head coaches are all two-handers as well. So previously Coach Surin, which is he headed the program. So now Coach Surin is actually the technical director of Singapore Bowling Federation, as you can see on SBF's website. So Coach Surin developed a lot of the game and then followed. But so Coach Surin himself is a two-hander as well, and also an ex-national bowler. So he obviously had a lot of insight into the game, a lot of research development done himself. And Coach Shireen here, which we see on the screen here, is also a fellow two-hander. So also has a lot of insight into the game personally. So both of them developed a lot of, along with Coach Sandra himself. Coach Sandra himself is a one-hander, but they all have put a lot of effort and research into the two-hander game, and you can see it in their bowlers, right? The way that the physical game has developed. So yeah, and we can see another two-hander here, I think. Okay, it is blocked by Coach Remy here. So, but we can see that his downswing is somewhat, yes, it's extended here as well. So you can see for this particular BIS bowler here as well, on his downswing, elbow straight, extended. Okay, let's see if there's any other two-hander that we can notice. I think they're doing a lane change. Maybe here, maybe this BIS bowler on the right here, Caden, I think. Yeah, so we can see his name. It's going to be on the left. So we can see here, we can look at Caden here. This Russell, oh yeah, I've actually coached Russell like 2 years ago when he was a primary school kid. So now he's in the secondary school level. Yeah, we can take a look at Caden as well as Russell's game, see how they're developed. Okay, we can take a look at Russell's game. Yep, so Russell was the one I've noticed earlier. Correct. So for Russell as well, so they've taught him to extend his downswing. Sorry. So on his downswing, so extends it and then projects the ball out. His release point, I think, is his release is a little bit later than what ideally we would like to see. So a little bit of a delayed release, but at least he's able to get his downswing straightened, and that's what we want. And if we look at Caden here, okay, so Caden here is obviously quite new to the two-handed game because he's not able to get his momentum as well as his body leaning forward in the correct angles yet. So let's look at Caden's. Correct. So you can see that Caden just doesn't have that look of an established two-handed bowler, right? Because his upper body lean is way too high. He doesn't get enough momentum leaning forward, and his backswing isn't high enough as well. But that's no issue because as he gets more experience bowling, he'll probably improve. And you can see that this issue here is that his backswing isn't that high, right? So this is the height of Caden's backswing, right? And why Caden's backswing is so low, like his ball is like this is his height, his backswing. It's so low probably because Caden doesn't lean forward enough. So if you can lean forward more, like leaning forward to until 45 degrees, he will have more space to actually have a higher backswing. So with a higher backswing, he can actually generate a little bit more power, more ball speed on his ball. Generally getting more momentum because the transfer of energy is that the higher your ball, right? So maybe I can draw a different chart here, right? The higher your ball, so you can get a ball swing up to here, then compared to when the ball drops down, right? So you're dropping down from a area of higher potential energy because the higher you are, the higher potential energy you have. Then when you drop down, you convert it to kinetic energy. So obviously you can convert into more kinetic energy like the higher your ball is. So having a higher backswing is also good, but within the limits of reasonability, right? Because for a two-hander, we can't have a backswing that's above our heads because we're limited by our shoulder joints. Okay, So let's see if we can see any other two-handers here. Nope, they're all doing a lane change. Yeah, I think they're starting their game here, so we can take a look here. So a common thing that I've noticed earlier when I was looking through the live stream is that like almost all, I think almost every one of the BIS bowlers, yeah, you can see here, I can't pronounce his name, Satijan, our young Indian teenager here from BIS. Yeah, you can see the top of his swing. So he's doing it without the ball, right? So he's doing a drill without the ball. It's 5-step drill. Yep, you can see here. So at the top of his swing, even though his elbow is slightly bent, right? Yeah, we can see here. Elbow slightly bent, it's still okay. So it doesn't, as long as it doesn't bend too much, then he'll be able to straighten his elbow on the downswing. So we play a little bit more. We can't see it here because it's blocked by another fellow bowler, but he actually does straighten his elbow on the downswing as well. So let's go into the live view. Okay, so we can see him bowling with the bowling ball here. I think it's slightly blocked. Let's play that. Yep, so here. So there's a good shot that we can see here for our BIS bowler. Straightens his elbow on the downswing. Almost straightens, almost totally straight, because I myself, I cannot get my elbow totally straight as well. So we play within the confines or limitations of our body shape and our body structure. Now, what our body can do. I myself, I cannot get my elbow totally straight, but it is still something that we want to train to improve on. So for two-handers, it is really important to get your elbow as straight as possible on the downswing. So this is where you have a smoother release and higher ball rate. So you can see our Indian bowler here doing that too. Let's see if there's any other two-handers that we can see here. There's a one-hander from NSRCC Academy. Okay, with a few BIS bowlers boys here. So yeah, so we have one on the right here. So this bowler, this BIS boy on the right, which you're going to see here, is obviously a newer bowler. So based on the amount of momentum he can generate, I think that's Russell, right? Yeah, I think that's Russell. I think it's the same bowler that we looked at earlier. So we're going to skip Russell. So I already took a look at his game. Even here taking quite a fair bit of time. And yes, he keeps his. So Aiden has the so-called the benefit to be able to keep his backswing relatively straight, as in his backswing with his elbow relatively extended. So Aiden here can actually keep his. He has the ability to keep his elbow quite extended on his backswing, and obviously it goes into the downswing as well. So I'm gonna play a bit. Freeze frame. So as you can see here, as it goes into the downswing, elbow totally straight again. So we can see a common recurring pattern, right, among all the downswings of the two-handed bowlers in BIS. So that's obviously what they were taught and what has been working, what has been successful for them to generate the amount of ball speed that they have. Is there another two-handed bowler here? I think Asher here on this middle part of the lane is probably a two-hander as well. Yep. So not a very proficient two-hander yet, but we still see that Asher does similar things, right? So if we pay attention to his downswing, elbow straight on the downswing. So his release is also delayed as well. So that is another problem that he will have to fix as he improves his bowling. So you can see that he actually delays. Okay, it's blocked by Coach Adam here. So let's see if we can get that frame where he releases late. Yeah, so almost when Coach Adam is actually going in to block him, to block the live stream here, you can see that actually Asher releases the ball late. So he releases the ball like after he has gone past his right shoulder joint, and I think it's almost going beyond his chin as well. Then Asher is also releasing. So the problem with Asher's release here is also he's releasing to the right side of his body. Ideally, you want to release underneath your shoulder or inside of your shoulder. You want to release the ball here. right, to the inside of your shoulder or right underneath your right shoulder. You don't want to release to the outside of the shoulder. So which is what Asher is doing. You can see that he's releasing to the right of his right shoulder, which is here. So this would lead to a lot of inconsistency and also late releases. So his his shot is not going to be too accurate. Okay, so I think that's the similarity. Okay, we have a more established two-hander here. So this is not from BIS, but obviously a more proficient two-hander. You can see on the right side here. So the right side of our live stream here. And let's take a look at his release. Yep, so you can see a common recurring theme on his downswing, elbow straight. Elbow straight, fully extended, very nice downswing, right? Very nice, very powerful downswing. He's a tall boy as well with a big build. Then this is really good finishing position. I think he has decent good knee bend. And then it looks like it's released for his pin 10 spare shot. So some mistakes here that he stands up. So he keeps his elbow straight after he releases his shot, which is not ideal. Ideally, you want to keep your sliding knee bent. It might be lower to the floor because when he keeps it straight, he's actually forcing his body to pop up. So this popping up of the upper body is actually not ideal if you have watched any of my previous analysis streams, because I always feel that this leads to a lot of inconsistency. And I think he gets his spin 10 back. Very nice. Ball speed is also decently fast as well. Caden, I think we have already looked at his game earlier. Okay. And for anyone who doesn't know who this is Marcus Tang. So current national bowler, also from the Bowling in Science Academy as well. So national bowler, and also I think now he's actually stepping in to help coach the younger bowlers as well, which is nice to see. So I don't know whether he's done with his NS. I think he's either done or almost totally done with his NS. So probably going into the workforce for Marcus. And nice to see that current national bowlers are stepping up, learning a bit of coaching and helping out with their the future generations of bowlers. Okay, so we can see here. If I pause this. I think this is Aiden Cheong from BIS as well. So this is where is what we actually don't want, right? So this is actually a negative example of what we don't want. So Aiden here actually keeps his elbow bent on the backswing, which is something that I'm also guilty of doing. So I haven't actually mastered the proper technique of straightening my elbow as well on the downswing. But as he releases, right, he isn't able to fully straighten his elbow. So you can see here, Aiden here isn't fully able to straighten his elbow. And because of that, actually releasing his ball late, right? So his ball is now released after his shoulder joint. So since it's released after the ball goes past his right shoulder joint, I think it's also going after his chin as well. So he's releasing the ball late. So when he releases the ball late, the ball goes, so the ball overhooks, right? It's a bit more difficult to be consistent with your targeting when you're releasing the ball late. And your ball motion on the lane will also be slightly weird as well, because you're pulling back on the ball rather than having a smooth release. So it affects a lot of the bowling delivery and consistency when you're not able to have a straighter elbow on the downswing for a two-hander. So Aiden can obviously improve that. He can work on his downswing, especially work on his elbow there. And I think that's it for the two-handed swing. So any other interesting bowlers? So for the one-handed game, I've analyzed quite a fair bit. Like we can look at this bowler here from Strike Academy, right? On the right. So at a glance is relatively good fundamentals. So if you look at his finishing position, very nice knee bend, right? Good extension of his trailing leg, going exactly 45 degrees. Like this angle here is about 45 degrees from his sliding leg. A nice position of his balance arm, almost parallel to the ground. So we would like to see this instead. And good follow through as well. Follow through above the head. Follow through with the hands ending above the head. So obviously very good very good fundamentals. And this is Joshua Teo, right, from Strike Academy. Okay, maybe we can take a look at the girls. I think a lot of the girls here are one-handed, right? Okay, so quite a few of the BIS girls, as well as Strike Academy girls. And I believe this is Coach Jackie here. So Coach Jackie, also a current national bowler, and also been coaching with BIS for close to 2 years already. So getting to be quite an experienced coach himself. So Jackie is also a one-handed bowler himself. So we can see this BIS bowler here. This lady here, Yvette, is obviously a newer bowler. So the technique is not that developed yet. Was it a one-handed delivery? So let me just go into theater mode. So I have a larger screen space. Oh, two-handed game. Okay. So that's a two-handed delivery. Okay. Yep. So two-handed release. And let's take a look at Yvette's two-handed game, right? So generally good. So she does have her elbow bent up a little bit on the backswing. So sometimes, like I mentioned, this is unavoidable due to the physiology of your body. Like personally, I cannot have a straight backswing. I tried doing it, but my shoulder joint just isn't flexible enough to me to have a high enough backswing if I were to keep my elbow totally straight when I swing my ball back. So I have to actually bend my elbow to get enough height on the backswing. So Yvette does that, but let's see. Okay, maybe I can't really capture the exact frame of a downswing. A downswing is pretty fast. Okay, so the issue here, like I mentioned before, is that Yvette isn't able to keep her elbow straight on the downswing. So since she has a bent elbow on the downswing, right, it kills the ball speed because generally now her arm swing length is a lot shorter. So because of her bent elbow, this is now the length of her downswing. Instead, if she were to like train further and be able to fully extend her elbow, her downswing would be slightly longer like this. So with a longer downswing, she can actually generate more ball speed. And you can see that because of that, she also has a delayed release as well. Actually not too bad. So Yvette actually releases her ball like right underneath her shoulder here, but she almost like drops the ball onto the lane rather than gliding it onto the lane, and it actually kills a lot of ball speed by dropping the ball into the lane. And you can see that her ball speed is really slow, so she can really like benefit a lot from improving her ball speed. So one obvious thing she can work on is obviously her downswing. So other than that, her physical aspects of the game looks okay. And I believe Callister Lee here from BS should be a one-handed bowler. And Meredith Tan from Strike Academy, I believe, should be a one-handed bowler as well. Yep, one-handed bowler. She puts her thumb in. Okay. Also a relatively new bowler, but the fundamentals look decently good. Okay, so certain issues of Callister. Is it Callista or Callister? I think it's Callister, right? So Callister here from BIS would be that her you can see she's leaning forward a little bit, right, during the stance. So this is a sign of early upper body weight transfer. So she's leaning a bit and her head is like slanted forward. So this is what we don't want. Usually we want to keep your head upright and you want to keep your back upright as well. So early upper body weight transfer. Timing is decently good. So she so-called she does her ball placement at the end of the second step. So that is okay. But the thing about her ball placement that is not quite developed yet is that she doesn't move it in a slight hump, right? So ideally, what you want to do with your ball placement is that you want to do a slight hump and then let it go into the swing. But Callista here doesn't do that, right? Callista just does this and then it goes down. So I think she puts it straight and then goes down. So there isn't this slight hump. Why you want to lift the ball slightly a little bit, because just like we mentioned, it is smoother and it leaves the ball higher. So when it's higher, when it swings down, it has more potential energy to transfer into kinetic energy. So those are the basic formulas of physics, right? The higher you are, the higher potential energy you have, and then the higher you fall, the more the potential energy converts into kinetic energy. So she doesn't lift it high enough. Play it. Yeah, she actually just does a little short, like she only does this, right? And then the ball goes down straight away. So she doesn't have that hump in her ball placement. So that is not ideal. So something she can work on. And her upper body forward lean, I think, is lacking here, right? So let's look at her third and fourth step. Yep. So the issue also for Callista's game, physical game, right, is that she actually doesn't lean forward as her ball swings back. So ideally, what the bowler should do is that they should be transferring their upper body weight forward as their ball swings back. So when their ball, where after they have done their ball placement, as the ball swings backwards, their body should be going forward. So actually, Callista doesn't really do that because she keeps the same upper body position all the way throughout. So she keeps it the same even after she has placed the ball. So she doesn't lean forward, so she doesn't get the benefit of that upper body weight transfer. She doesn't get the extra momentum. So why we want that upper body weight transfer is because it gives the body extra momentum. Because when you put your weight forward, so imagine if she's able to lean more, right? So her center of gravity would be more forward. And because it's more forward, she will get some extra momentum from this center of gravity being going forward instead. So the extra momentum would give her ball extra ball speed as well. So it doesn't get that extra momentum and ball speed. Finishing position wise is actually pretty good. So if you look at finishing position, excellent, right? Knee bend, excellent, right? Able to keep her knee bent. Trailing leg, in a very good position, right? Good position, but just not relaxed enough. Ideally, we would like to see the trailing leg be a little bit more relaxed, something like this, to have the knees a little bit bent on the trailing leg. But her balance, her non-bowling arm, right, or the balance arm is perfectly parallel to the floor, almost perfectly parallel to the floor, almost ideal. And her bowling shoulder is lower than the non-bowling shoulder, which is good. So she's slanted on towards the right side. Then why we do this? Because this creates a larger gap on the right side of the body to swing a ball. So finishing position is really good. And then we can look at Meredith from Scribe. Okay, so Meredith is also a newer bowler, as you can see, not too developed in a physical game yet, but she has the fundamentals pretty good. Her fundamentals are pretty good. So back straight, hit straight as well. Back straight, hit straight during the stance. So this is what we like to see. So let's look at her timing. 1, 2. Earlier timing. So this is early ball placement timing, right? So you can see that this is the beginning of Meredith's second step, right? And she already has the ball in motion. So this is what we call early ball placement timing, which is early ball placement timing. Okay, so she does have proper weight transfer forward. So if you look at her third step, correct. So this is what we like to see from the bowler as well. So you can see that the instant, so if you use an arrow, the instant that her ball moves down from her ball placement, right, the ball swings down, she actually positions, she leans forward. So this is now her upper body. So she leans forward with her upper body, and this creates the extra momentum that you like, that we, the bowlers, actually want from doing this kind of motion. So she leans forward, and as she goes into the swing, into the release, pretty well positioned. Very good knee bend, excellent knee bend. Trailing leg, yep, being a little bit bent. Okay, so look at her balance arm, almost perfectly parallel to the floor, a little bit higher, but you can look at this excellent finishing position here. Knee bend, excellent. Trailing leg, almost perfect, right? Almost perfect. Just a little bit more relaxed. I think she does actually bend her knee slightly here, so it's almost perfect. Finishing position here above the head. So her follow through with her hand above the head, also excellent as well. So slightly slower ball speed and rotation is not that ideal as well. So it's just a matter of technique, but her fundamentals are really solid there. Maybe I can want to take a look at why her rotation is slightly slower. State her cadence. Okay, it's how she holds the ball. So why what Meredith can work on here is actually how she holds the ball and her release. So for because her fundamentals are really exceptionally solid. So if you look at this point, correct? So we can see here at this point, we can see if you pay attention, I can't really zoom in on this video, but if you pay attention here, her fingers, right, are actually at the top half of the ball as compared to what we would ideally like. We would like the fingers to be at least for one-hander to be in the middle part of the ball. And if you're a two-handed bowler, your fingers should be on the lower half of the ball. So for a one-hander, ideally, your fingers should be at least on the middle part of the ball so that you can actually have enough leverage on the bowling ball to generate the rotation. But because her fingers are in the top half of the ball, so she cannot like she almost generates little to no rotation on the ball with her release because she just doesn't have enough leverage on the bowling ball with her fingers. So this is why the rotation, the ball only rolls like a few rotations before going down the lane, but she still gets a strike with it, with a cross rocket. I will assume that Meredith here is actually a pretty accurate bowler because her fundamentals are really, really, really good. Okay, we have Nurul Azuna, I think here, two-hander. Blocked. Can't really see that. So blocked by her fellow bowler there. But also an issue with the ball swing, with her arm swing. I think I coached that particular girl when I was coaching Westwood Secondary School last year, if I'm not wrong. So I think she's from Westwood. She looks very familiar to me. Okay, let's look at the other pair of lanes. Put it into theater mode. Okay, so obviously Kirsten here from BIS, obviously a newer bowler. So for a newer bowler, I mean, for the I've received comments right actually from Coach Shireen himself. Like he mentioned that quite a few of the other coaches and other bowling students in Singapore have actually watched some of my analysis videos, and I'm very thankful for that. I hope it actually helps. But some of them get disheartened when I give like negative comments and I criticize their game. But you have to understand that nobody's game is perfect, right? So nobody is perfect. Everybody is improving. Even the national bowlers that I've seen, like, have some flaw or defect to the game because we're just humans, right? We're not robots. So the only question is that as a bowler and as a coach, my job is to highlight what are the areas that the bowler can improve on. Because if there's nothing to improve on, then you're stuck, right? So then you can't get any better as a bowler. So that will be actually quite depressing for me, right? I'd rather have somebody point out my mistakes so that I know where I can work on, so that I can see that my future, my so-called the limits of my ability is actually more. I can go higher, I can climb higher. So please don't be discouraged, when I criticize your game. And just quick shout out, like if anybody is interested to get coaching from me, you can actually contact me. You can find my contact information in the video description itself. You can contact me via WhatsApp, via SMS, or you can actually call me straight up, right? My handphone number is listed there. I would not recommend the email because I seldom check that email address. So try and contact me by phone if you would like to get some lessons from me. So we can see that back to the analysis here, that Kirsten here is obviously a new bowler. So quite new in her bowling journey because her finishing position isn't ideal yet, right? So first and foremost, we can look at her finishing position. So balance arm, not totally parallel with the lane. She does have good knee bend and she does have good body lean forward. So that's good body leaning forward. And I believe her trailing leg position here is actually not too bad as well. So this part is all right. But if we go like a bit earlier, so timing is also not too bad. So certain aspects that we can notice that she still has more to go, more to learn. Her bowling shoulder is slightly lower, but as she places her ball, I believe she places it overly high. So let's look at her ball placement. 1, 2. yeah, overly high, right? So this is also a very common mistake I see in very new bowlers, more commonly in one-handed bowlers than in two-handed bowlers, right? So you can see that Kirsten here actually places her ball super high, right? She places the ball almost the same level as her eyes. So first and foremost, you will notice that this is blocking her view of her target, of a break point. So obviously this is bad because by lifting the ball so high up during placement, you are blocking your view. Anytime you block your view, obviously not good, right? Because you are leading to more inconsistency. There's a higher chance that you can actually miss your target by not being able to see your target. So obviously it blocks a view that is not good, and this is usually too high, and it will delay the so-called the swing by too much. So ideally, Kirsten here should be holding her ball around here during the stance, right, closer to the right beneath, right underneath the right shoulder. And then the height of the ball placement, like even though we're supposed to place the ball a little bit higher, right, if we were to draw it, but it should go this way, right? It should just place to about, slightly below her shoulder joint, right beneath her shoulder joint. That it should be the height of a ball placement. The as high as a ball placement should go. So she's placing it way above, and this delays her timing. Her ball placement timing is actually all right, but just that the height of the placement affects. So you take 1, 2. So she walks to the end of the second step, and then she starts moving her ball. So this is the end of her second step. I can see based on her shoulder movement. So she takes after 2 steps, and then she starts moving the ball. So the ball placement timing, the start of the ball placement timing is all right, just that the ball placement is too high. And then also another thing is the direction of the ball placement as well. Okay, so she is placing her ball to the inside of her body. You can see here, the ball is somewhere right in front of her chest. So which is not ideal. Ideally, what you want to be is the ball should be right in front of her right shoulder, not in front of her chest. It should be in front of her right shoulder. That means more on the right side of her body, obviously. So because she's placing it in the middle of her chest, what it does is that when she swings, right, she has to swing this way. She has to swing the ball diagonally out towards the right side of her body. And then when she actually does a follow through, the ball will actually go this way. It will go from right to left. So it will lead to inconsistency and it becomes more difficult for Kirsten here to hit her target. So you can see that she swings to the outside. So as a downswing, she swings out. And then when she is going to release, right, the ball will naturally tend to want to go towards the left. And she has to do some so-called some counter action with her body in order to try and correct that. Yep. So also late release as well, I think, here. Yep. Release point is slightly okay. Just that she doesn't have a good leverage, a good hold on the ball. Because her fingers are in the top half of the ball. So can't really see here, but you can see just from a bit here, fingers are in the top half of the ball, so she can't get a lot of leverage. So she just actually drops the ball onto the lane. So she isn't able to direct the ball, project the ball into the lane, as like what I mentioned before, right? So her ball, just from looking at the direction of her ball placement, I already predicted before that her ball will tend to go from right to left. And indeed, it does go from right to left, and it ends up in the left gutter, right? Totally missing her target. So just from looking at the direction of the direction of the ball placement is really, really important because it determines where your downswing will go. And it also, obviously that also determines where your ball is going as well. So it determines the direction of your ball. Okay. Karine Fu with the black t-shirt here, I believe I've seen her name before. I think she's quite an experienced bowler. Yeah, so Karine Hill obviously has solid fundamentals, right? I think I've analyzed her or I've noticed her like her name among the like last year's National Youth Championships. Excellent finishing position, right? Excellent knee bend, hand exactly parallel to the lane. Trailing leg well extended, has a little bit of flex here. So we can't really see from this angle, but her knees are actually somewhat flexed. So a little bit of flex in her bowling knee. So bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder, and the body is tilted to the right side of her body. So upper body is tilted to the right side. So this creates more space for her to swing and release the ball. So really excellent fundamentals, right? It's almost perfect, right? Nothing, really nothing much that I can comment on as a coach, right? Almost perfect finishing position. Misses the spare, but just a bit unlucky. But excellent fundamentals there. I think we can see a two-hander. So a two-hander from BIS here on the extreme right side of our live stream here. And let's take a look at her game. Okay. So with a backswing, so she does have good upper body lean forward. So you can see that her backswing here, her elbow is actually bent. And let's see if she can straighten her elbow on downswing. Not too bad. So she manages to straighten her elbow on the downswing. But the ball speed, I think, is a little bit on the... It's actually quite decent for female bowler. Can be a little bit faster. So let's see how she can actually improve her ball speed. Okay. So has to do with the momentum and the footwork. So if you look at her footwork, right? I think just by looking at her approach here, her first two steps are a little bit too large. Because when your first two steps are too large, right, it leads to her shortening her last three steps. And when she shortens her last three steps, she actually kills the momentum that she's supposed to generate. So she doesn't generate a lot of upper forward momentum by shortening her last three steps. So the first two steps, yeah, a little bit too, just a little bit too far. So let's look at her second step. Second step is decently small, but I think the first step is a little bit too far. She would actually benefit from having like just a smaller first step. Yeah, it's really subtle. But the last step, I think her slide is also too small as well. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4. I think it looks all right. The slide looks all right. It's just slides here. Her release. Wow, it's actually quite hard for me to analyze because generally a physical game looks okay. Okay, I can see that she does actually keep her elbow bent on the downswing. So that can be improved. Here. Yep, here. So even here in this part of the downswing, her elbow is still bent. So she can actually improve slightly here by having her elbow straightened on this particular part of the downswing. So you can straighten her elbow slightly earlier. So I think her ball speed will be faster. And I believe most of the physical game actually looks pretty good. So maybe what can benefit is that she works on a smaller first step and also maybe improving the cadence and the tempo of the last three steps. Like this last three steps looks a little bit slow. So just gonna focus on her last three steps. 3, 4, 5. Like this last three steps is a bit slow. Generally for a two-hander, right? This part where she does her last three steps, this here, the faster you are with your last three steps, the faster your cadence there, the more the so-called the more ball speed you can generate. Because your swing will be faster as well. Yeah, so she's a little bit slower with her last three steps. So she can actually work on like shortening her first step and also improving the tempo and cadence of her last three steps. But other than that, most of the physical game looks okay, but I also don't really like the fact that she actually stands up. So you can see that after she releases the shot, she stands fully straight up, right? She doesn't maintain her finishing position. So that's also a bad habit that she needs to work on. She has to maintain her finishing position to work on the strength of her legs, and also she has to be disciplined in that way. So it helped her to get the more consistent shots. I think this ball overhooks as well. So she misses the target, and the ball speed is a little bit too slow for a two-hander. Okay, you can see Ivory Leong here from BIS. I think this is a one-hander. Yep. Okay, not too bad. Okay, so you can see Ivory here. First and foremost is that the discipline, right? So I mentioned the earlier bowler on the right hand side of the lane. She actually stood up after releasing a shot, so that's where she shows a lack of discipline. Then Ivory here shows really good discipline. So she tries her best to stay in the finishing position all the way. So even though the ball has passed past the middle of the lane, she's still here in the finishing position. But the finishing position can be better, right? Because first we see that not enough knee bend, decent knee bend, but not enough. Then the balance arm is a little bit non-bowling arm or the balance arm a little bit shorter than what we would like, because we ideally would like to be totally straight and parallel to the floor. Her upper body lean, she's leaning a little bit to the right, but not nearly enough. Like it would be better if she can actually lean with her hips as well, lean a little bit more to the right hand side here. And obviously part of it is because her trailing leg is actually not extended enough. So this angle, right, from the trailing leg, in between the trailing leg to the sliding leg, you notice that it's actually too small. So ideally, you want to extend your trailing leg a little bit more like this. So when you extend your trailing leg a little bit more this way, you would naturally lean more with your upper body to the right side. So when you lean more with your upper body to the right side, you're going to create a bigger space for your ball to swing through on this part of your body, on the right side of your body. If you are a right-hander, if you are a left-hander, so it will be the opposite case. Okay, but she has really good discipline. At least she tries to keep her finishing position all the way. Lenny here. So just after Ivory has taken the shot, you can take a look at Liani Lim here from BIS again. So good timing. Only so immediately one thing I noticed is that she doesn't lean forward with her upper body, right? So this is actually she's going into the fourth step, and her upper body lean is not enough. So ideally, when you want to lean forward with your upper body is when you started the ball placement and your ball is swinging down. So ideally, where your ball is swinging down here, right? I'll use the arrow to illustrate. You should be leaning forward as your ball is swinging down. So Liani here actually doesn't do that. So you can see that she actually keeps the same amount of upper body tilt throughout the backswing. So doesn't lean forward enough. So she doesn't get the advantage of generating momentum by doing that upper body weight transfer. Okay. Other than that, her finishing position is quite good as well. Balance arm parallel to the floor. Excellent knee bend. Right, excellent knee bend here. And if you look at her trailing leg, well extended right to the right side because she's a left-hander, and because of this good well positioned trailing leg, right, she angles her upper body to the left side. So when she angles her upper body to the left side, you notice that there's a lot of space here for Liani to swing the ball on the downswing. So she clears her hips, so the hips wouldn't get in the way of the ball swing, especially the downswing, and that's really important. So finishing position pretty good. Release wise, let's see where her hand is. Release. Ball placement timing is good as well. So you can see that she is at the end of her second step, and then she places a ball. So ball placement timing is good. Fingers. Her arm, her elbow is a little bit bent. No. Yeah, her elbow. Sorry, her elbow is actually a little bit bent. You can see that on her backswing here. This is quite interesting for a two-hander. For a one-hander. Is that typically one-handers, their elbows are typically quite straight on the backswing. So in Leonie's case, she actually has a bent elbow in her backswing, and I think this actually kills her ball speed. So she actually gets a lot lower ball speed because of this bent elbow. I think she's doing it to try to get her fingers lower on the ball. Well, I think this actually works against her. Let me try. Play. Oh, it's too fast. I can't really see the point of a release. Yeah, so she straightens her elbows here. So on the exact, this is the point of a release. She straightens her elbow, but you can see here her fingers are in the top half of the ball. And because of that, she can't really get a lot of leverage on the ball. Then the rotation is decent though. Uh, Obviously she can get more rotation if she can get her fingers lower, but relatively so. But very good finishing position. Okay, so this girl from Track Academy also pretty good. Nicole Yao, I think I've seen her name pretty often. So excellent finishing position here. Excellent. No shoulders going lower, then the upper body towards the right side of the body. Trailing feet can be extended a little bit more to the right side, but as you can see with my wireframe drawings here, right? Like we from the wireframe, if you connect all the wireframes, there is some kind of an ideal shape for the body to be during the finishing position. So she's very close to that. Pretty good fundamentals. If we look at Nicole's timing, so it seems like quite a lot of Strike Academy girls actually have pretty early ball placement timing. Maybe they were taught that way, but to my understanding, I think that it's a little bit of an older, an older fashion timing, because on the modern game we actually prefer to have our bowlers to have a little bit more delayed ball placement timing, because we want to get that uh delayed release timing as well. So that is you can actually look at my video where I do analysis on Dara Payak. So Dara Payak has that delayed release timing, and that is the kind of timing that we want for both men and women. So with the early ball placement timing, it actually doesn't really help, because you can see early ball placement timing here, right? At the beginning of the second step, Nicole here is already actually moving her ball. Yep, so she moves the ball. So that is what we call early ball placement timing. So typically in early ball placement timing, I mean, her physical game is actually very good. So you look at Cole's upper body weight transfer. So as she swings down, so what I mentioned before, as the ball swings down, she transfers her upper body forward. She leans forward with her upper body. So good upper body weight transfer forward. But if you have noticed, right, okay, it's typically high back swing. So finishing position really analyzed, but this is very subtle. I doubt most of the viewers can catch it. But actually, Nicole's swing, right, isn't as smooth as she can be because of her early ball placement timing. So let's look at it in detail, right? Can I actually slow? I can't actually slow this down because this is a live stream. But her swing, right, actually isn't as smooth as she can be. She seems to have a little bit of a pause right here. At the tip of her swing, she seems to pause the swing a little bit. And the reason why she's not so smooth is that her body is instinctively trying to delay the ball swing in order to compensate for her early ball placement timing. Because she's been taught that in the finishing position, she needs to delay her ball coming down. So the body knows that they want to delay it at the end, but at the start, the body is starting early with the early ball placement timing. So there must be somewhere in the swing where the body is trying to delay that arm swing. And I believe it is at near the top of the swing here. 1, 2. So about the top here, you can see that she delays the top of her swing a little bit. And on the downswing, it's a little bit slower as well. Just looks a little bit unnatural. Like the transfer and conservation of momentum just looks a little bit unnatural. It's very subtle. I can see it because I'm so used to watching bowlers bowl, but I doubt many of the viewers can actually see that. But yeah, so that is the only flaw I think in Nicole's game. But a lot of rotation, pretty accurate bowler, very good fundamentals. So Nicole, so very good, bright future for her in bowling as well. And I think that's it, man. I actually have went on for, yeah. So this is close to an hour. So we analyze both the boys and the girls. For the boys, I mainly be looking at two-handers, right? Because, oh, maybe you can look at one more, because there is a two-hander not from BIS that I actually want to look at. I think it's this guy, Eldrick Lim. I've actually bowled side by side on the same lanes as him during last year's Singapore Nationals, and he is quite a phenomenal two-hander bowler. I don't know, I can't remember the name of his coach, but it's actually an older, very experienced coach that's coaching him in the two-handed game. And it's actually, his two-handed game is actually quite good, quite good. So we're gonna look at his delivery here. If we're not blocked, ooh, so fast, right? So first and foremost, the thing you want to notice is that his last 3 steps is really fast. So pay attention to the last 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. X really fast last 3 steps, and that helps him to generate that ball speed on the downswing. And his game is looking really good, right? Because Eldrick here already has like that's 1, 2, 3. In 5 frames, he already has 4 strikes and a nice pair. So the score is actually the score reflects how good his bowling, right? So look at his last 3 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So his last 3 steps are pretty quick. Finishing position wise is actually quite decent. So obviously balance arm not ideal, but you can see that. Okay, let's draw the charts, right? So upper body leading here, balance arm is slightly lower, trailing leg extended over here, knee bend like this, right? So you can see this wireframe figure model, right? Here, the bowling shoulder lower than the non-bowling shoulder, trailing leg well extended to the left side of his body because he's a right-hander. Decent knee bend, can be slightly more, but not too bad. Balance arm not fully perfect, so it has to be level. Ideally, you want to be parallel to the ground, right? But not fully parallel. But almost looking very good. Finishing position looks good. Is this a strike? Oh, robbed, man. Almost a strike. So I don't know whether we can see his downswing. Okay, we can see it here. This angle is kind of difficult to see his downswing. But what Eldrick does, right? Oh, Eldrick does really well is that he extends his elbow, right? So during his backswing, even though his elbow is slightly bent, during the downswing, he actually extends it and straightens it on the downswing. So in the downswing here, when he releases the shot, because I personally bowl with him on the same lane, so I noticed it before, is that he fully extends his elbow and his arm swing on the downswing, and because of that, he generates a lot of ball speed. So have more than sufficient ball speed on his ball, excellent rotation, good projection, good accuracy. If we look at the way my only gripe with him, my only complaint with his physical game is the fact that he does this pop up. So you can see here, right now his elbow is here, right? His shoulders are here. And after release, he pops up a lot. So now look at where his shoulders are at. He pops up from here to here, right? Pops up this much with his upper body. So this popping up is actually affecting his aim and consistency, because before that, his eyes were actually looking at his target from here. But now, after he releases the ball, his eyes are looking at the target from here. So this would actually make his shot just a bit inconsistent. But overall, fantastic physical game there. Really, really good bowler. Okay, so gonna end the analysis here. So for the boys, right, with everything we've looked at is the two-handed game, and I wanted just to highlight and how important it is to have the elbow, to straighten the elbow on the downswing for two-handers. And then for the girls as well, I think mostly it is there's quite a few two-handers on the girls side, 1 or 2, but mostly is one-handers as well. So for one-handers, I think the basics are the same. To have a good finishing position, good timing and all that. And yeah, so thank you for watching this video. So hope the viewers have learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to pop it in the comments below, or you can actually contact me if you like personal lessons. Okay, thank you very much, and see you guys next time.